Jared here with CarBuzz.com, and today I'm reviewing the 2019 Lexus IS. In this case, I'm driving an IS 350 F Sport. That's one of many trims that are available on this IS. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Now, the IS competes in the compact luxury sedan segment. You've probably heard of this segment because it's highly competitive with models like the BMW 3 Series, Audi A4, and Mercedes C-Class. And then from Japan, you've got things like the Infiniti Q50. And now you've got a new entrant in this category, the Genesis G70, that is just capturing all of the attention right now. Lexus's IS has always been one of the more intriguing options because just look at it. You either love or hate the styling. It doesn't look like anything else in its segment. I happen to be on the like category for this car. Other people don't like the spindle grille, but I think it at least looks pretty striking in the front and in the rear. Now, the only problem is Lexus hasn't done any heavy updates to the IS, leaving it a bit lagging in terms of technology and powertrain compared to the segment. And we're going to go ahead and experience that out on the road. But before we do, if you want to see the best deals on the IS 350, go ahead and click the link in the description below. Now, let's go ahead and break down what you're going to find under the hood on the IS because there are a bunch of options. So before we get it out on the road, I wanted to go over the engine options because there are a lot of them on the 2019 IS. So your base is going to be your IS 300. That's going to have a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine going either to an 8-speed automatic for rear-wheel drive, or if you opt for all-wheel drive, you're going to get a 6-speed automatic and actually a different engine. We'll talk about that a little later, but the 4-cylinder engine is going to put out 241 horsepower, which is okay for the segment, not the best. 21 mpg in the city, 30 on the highway, also pretty okay. Now, if you get all-wheel drive on the IS 300, you actually get a different engine. Instead of a 2-liter turbo, you're going to get a 3.5-liter V6, but not this 3.5-liter V6. You're going to get only producing 260 horsepower, 19 mpg in the city, 26 on the highway, 21 combined, which is actually the worst of the IS lineup. Just really weird. I don't know why you'd want to get that one. The one that we have here is the full-on IS 350. It's the most powerful engine you can get on this car. 311 horsepower. It's gone up a little bit since this engine was first introduced way back in like 2006. 20 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, 23 combined with rear-wheel drive, 8-speed automatic, or if you opt for all-wheel drive, you're going to drop to a 6-speed automatic. 0 to 60 is going to happen in about 5.6 seconds. In my opinion, this is the engine to get, and it's not even close. Now let's go ahead and get it out on the road and see how the IS 350 in the F-Sport guise performs. The Lexus IS has two personalities from behind the wheel. You've got the IS as a luxury sedan, and then you have the IS as a sports sedan. And I wanted to differentiate them that way because in one respect, it does pretty well, and in the other, not so much. So in steering, Lexus has actually been pretty darn good on the steering. It's very heavy. You notice it, especially when you put it in sport mode. I'm going through some turns here. Yeah, you have a lot of weight to it. It's not as precise as, you know, some of the old BMWs with hydraulic steering, but it's not lackluster either. I think Lexus is doing a pretty good job on this forefront. The ride is very smooth. I was expecting a smaller Lexus with an F-Sport badge to be a little bit more uncomfortable than this, but it actually handles itself quite well. Now, you've got the engine and powertrain. So as an automatic, this 8-speed is great. When I'm just tootling along right now as I am, it's shifting. You can actually have your gear position up on the main display here. I actually like that to just see how the automatic is shifting for itself. It's just kind of a neat thing to watch. So like right now I'm in 6th gear going like 30 miles an hour. It just shifted into 7th even, which really just maximizes fuel economy. But if I go ahead and put my foot down, it does shift quickly enough. Now, here's where we start to get into some issues. When you want to drive spiritedly, let's say, the IS does start to have some shortcomings. The chassis is pretty good. The big problem, so let's go ahead and put it into sport mode. Now let's tap it into its manual mode. So as I mentioned, 3.5-liter V6, 311 horsepower, gonna get you to 60 in 5.6 seconds, but it just doesn't feel all that quick to me. So let's go ahead and put it in manual. It feels reasonably quick. The engine sounds good. You may be able to hear it through the mic. It sounds almost supercharged. It has like a whiny characteristic to it. Go ahead and listen to that again. Yeah, hear that? It sounds pretty good. I do like it, but here's where my main issue is going to come in. These gear shifts. I just can't get it to shift when I want it to. Like, I pull the paddle and it shifts like a second later. I'm like, I am a millennial. I want my shift now. I want it now, now, now. You need to shift when I want to shift. You are not in charge. I am in charge. So, sorry about that. I'm having a little argument with the transmission here. Yeah, I've driven this 8-speed, this Lexus 8-speed on other vehicles before, and it felt quicker than this. I don't know if it's the calibration or the tuning, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull the paddle. Now, shift. Yeah, it's just not quick enough. It doesn't rank up there with like the ZF 8-speed that BMW uses. I just don't... Downshift. There we go. Yeah, it just doesn't shift when I want it to, so it's a little bit frustrating in that regard. And the engine, while potent with 311 horsepower, all the competitors are twin turbocharged at this point, or at least single turbo, and they're putting out 50 to 60 more horsepower than what you're getting on this car. But if all you really care about is how it rides, this car is very soft, very comfortable, and if you're just gonna leave it in automatic and maybe play with the sport modes occasionally, it does pretty well. Now, let's go ahead and pull over and talk about the interior, where much like the powertrain, it's starting to feel out of date. The cabin of the IS, Lexus usually does really nice materials. There are very nice materials in here throughout, although this is one of the least expensive Lexus models you can buy, so it's not as good as some of their other models, but I want to give Lexus credit where credit is due because it does feel very premium in here. Now, we have the F Sport model, which is going to change a couple of things, starting primarily with the gauges and the steering wheel. The biggest difference you're going to notice is this awesome gauge cluster here. It's inspired by the LFA, although when you really stop to think about it, the reason why the LFA had a digital gauge like this is because the V10 could just rev faster than a physical tachometer could keep up with. This engine, not so much, although as you can see when I get to the higher RPMs, you can see it glows red to let you know to shift. That's a pretty cool feature, and if I go ahead and play with the modes, there's Sport, Sport Plus, Eco, you can see that the gauges do change a little bit depending on what mode you're in. I think the Sport mode happens to look the coolest. It's not as customizable as what you'll get in an RCF, but it is pretty neat regardless. The other cool thing is if I push one of the buttons on the steering wheel, whoa, it slides. That's really cool. I know it's kind of a gimmick, but oh my god, it is a fun gimmick. Now with the position slid to the side, you can have your fuel economy up, you can have your range, navigation, audio, all of those good things that you can cycle through using the steering wheel. Why would you ever want to hide them? I guess theoretically, if you're not using them and you're driving on a canyon road, you don't want to be distracted by them, but I just think it's neat that the whole thing slides over. All of this is controlled via the steering wheel, which again is different when you get the F Sport model. It's a very nice steering wheel we've got here, black with red stitching. It feels very similar. I think it's slightly less aggressive than what you'd get in an RCF. But if you aren't sitting in the two back-to-back, you would really think that this is the same steering wheel. It actually might be. Very nice, chunky. The paddles aren't that nice. They're kind of plasticky. I wish they were a little bit nicer feeling, but they're not terrible in any respect. But yeah, this is one of the better steering wheels. The only problem that I have with it is this red stitching here doesn't seem to match this red stitching. This red stitching looks a little bit more pink. This one appears more red, and neither one matches up with the red leather on the seats, and Lexus is just usually better than that with stuff like this. So a bit surprising to see Lexus show a little bit of idiosyncrasy there. Now let's go ahead and move to the main cabin, where the IS is just really starting to show its age. Over the years, Lexus has made this big infotainment screen a little bit wider. And they've improved the graphics a little bit, but they haven't improved it enough for me. So you can see here, here's our menu. I'm controlling it using this touchpad mouse thing. It kind of operates under haptic feedback, so like it kind of clicks into whatever spot you have. This is the older system. Lexus has since switched to like a mouse pad like you'd get on a laptop. This one I feel is actually harder to use than the other one. So yeah, just not very good. No Apple CarPlay or Android Auto available on the IS for 2019. That also is going to lose points for me. Yeah, this infotainment system has just been a disaster for a really long time. Lexus has just revealed a updated system on the 2020 RX where you will get a touchscreen, although I don't foresee that coming to the IS for a little while. Climate controls are much better. Lexus has tilted them towards the driver. It's kind of angled at a point where all the buttons are very easy to reach and touch, including the volume and tuning. You've got a CD player. That probably won't be here too much longer. It's kind of interesting how you control the temperature. You can either slide up or down, or you can just tap top or tap at the bottom to lower that. That's kind of neat as well. I usually don't like sliding controls like that, but Lexus has done them very well. You've got your heated and ventilated seats. The F Sport seats are more heavily bolstered than what you'll get on a normal IS. I think they are lovely, very comfortable. Lexus's seat game has been very strong. Here's where you control your 8-speed automatic. You can tap over for manual. If I throw it in reverse, you get kind of a small-ish backup camera as the rear sunshade goes up and down. This interior feels pretty nice, but it's definitely getting out of date in 2019. Now let's go ahead and check out those back seats. I'm really digging the red leather that Lexus offers on their interiors. Lexus does red leather really well without looking too shouty. They do it in a very classy manner, except for that red stitching up front that doesn't match the red on the leather. Come on, Lexus, you're better than that. Back seat space is pretty good. I have some legroom here. I'm not that tall. There are bigger cars in this segment, but I think it's pretty comfortable back here. I just would not want to sit in this middle seat. That would not be very comfortable. The front seats are great. They're very nicely bolstered. Lexus is just on point with their seats right now. But let's go ahead and check out the last part of this car, which is the trunk. So back here, we've got some pretty interesting styling. You can see our little F Sport badge to denote that we've got the sportier of the two models. The taillights do this sort of wraparound thing like a ninja samurai, or like that thing that girls do with the makeup across their eye where it sort of goes onto the side. Kind of interesting styling element to make the IS stand apart. You might not like it. I think it looks pretty cool. When you open up the trunk, you've got 10.8 cubic feet of storage, which is okay for the segment, but there are some bigger cars in this class. You can drop down those rear seats if you need a little bit more storage. Now let's go ahead and price out our Ninja Samurai sedan here. There are a lot of different ways to price out our 2019 Lexus IS depending on drivetrain and engine, so let's go ahead and break it down. Your base 300 with rear-wheel drive is going to be $38,560. Then you can add F Sport to that. That'll be $41,755. Adding all-wheel drive to the 300 is going to bump you up to $41,010. But if you want an all-wheel drive with F Sport, it's going to be $43,805. Then we step up to the IS 350, which is what we've just tested. That's going to be $42,180 for rear-wheel drive, or $44,345 with all-wheel drive. Now, if you want to step up to the F Sport 350, that's going to start at $45,375 for rear-wheel drive, or $46,710 for all-wheel drive. As tested, our 350 F Sport that we have here is $49,505. That's because we have a few options. We have that F Sport package, which, as I mentioned it on the 350, is going to cost you $31,950, but you're going to get a ton of stuff. I definitely recommend going for the F Sport on this car. You're going to get a more aggressive bumper and grille, 18-inch wheels, heated and ventilated seats. You're going to get that digital instrument cluster from the LFA. You're going to get F Sport seats, leather steering wheel and shift knob, adaptive suspension, and a limited slip differential. That's a lot of stuff. You're going to get the power sunshade is only $210. I'd go ahead and do that. In the rear, the adaptive front lighting, that's only $300. Go ahead and go for that too. And if you need navigation with Mark Levinson 15-speaker audio, that sound system sounds really good. $2845. I think that's pretty worth it as well. So So it's time to sum up our experience with the 2019 IS 350 F Sport. This is a car that I enjoy. I think it's pretty nice to drive, very comfortable. I like the way it looks, and pricing wise, compared to the German competitors, I think it actually is a good value. However, there are a lot of things that Lexus needs to come and update with this car. There's not a lot of places to put things in the interior. There's some idiosyncrasies with the way the leather choices are. The powertrain is just ancient compared to the cars in this segment that are all turbocharged and much more powerful. I think that the IS was a fine car when it was redesigned for its third generation, but just due to its age, it's not a strong enough competitor in this segment, which is why, sadly, it's going to be earning a score of... Time out, time out, time out. Okay, so past Jared is about to deliver his verdict on the 2019 Lexus IS 350 F Sport. And after driving this car for a little bit longer, I've decided that I was a bit unfair in my previous ranking because I looked at the different ranks and how I wanted them to be, and the IS 350 is not a terrible car. It is a little bit of a dated car. Lexus, I think, can do a little bit more to make this car better in the future. Maybe give it that twin turbocharged powertrain that's currently in the Lexus LS 500. That would be really cool. But it's still really comfortable and it's very distinctive looking, something that a lot of people want in their car, and it's very good quality. Lexus is always going to work properly. You're never going to have any issues with this car. And with that being said, and keeping that in mind, I've decided that the Lexus IS 350 will receive a score of worth a look. Because if the German and Korean and other Japanese competitors you just want something to work all the time, that's going to be the IS 350. Now I'm going to throw it back to past Jared to finish up this video. You know, it's a pretty decent car, but sometimes you just can't win every battle, and that's the way it goes. And if you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more, be sure to subscribe to the CarBuzz YouTube channel and download our apps on iOS and Android to keep up with the latest and greatest in automotive news and to see more reviews just like this one. Hope you've enjoyed the video. See you next time.